there's a movie out called Come Sunday. It talks about this Bishop Pearson story. Chiwetel Ejiofor plays Bishop Pearson. And hey, I appreciate it for what it is. It does not capture Bishop Pearson at all.
Wow.
If you watch that, you'll think he's some brooding, deep thinker, introverted. Bishop Pearson was whip smart, intelligent, dynamic, hilariously funny, and loved by everyone the second he stepped into every room.
Wow.
And so my beef with Come Sunday has always been, it is an infinitesimally small picture of someone who is larger than life.
Right. Wow.
And so that got him into all the rooms. And I'm going to tell you, he stayed consistent with love. He stayed consistent with care for people. He also stayed consistent according to what he deemed the expressions of Pentecost, which he still found legitimate, which are the gifts of the Spirit and tongues and prophecy and prayer for healing. He just felt like there were so many other faiths that tied into our faith. And he just felt like that the love of Jesus was transformative for all. And so that's the journey he went on. But he was still seen as controversial, but also seen as beloved by everybody that was interacting with him.
So now that he has died at a relatively young age, I mean, he's not that old these days. What do you think, how would you assess his significance and legacy?
I have a couple of thoughts here.
I knew you would.
I think number one, I think if I had to do it over again, I was a kid back then. If I had been the pastor, I think I would have stood true to our doctrine, but I wouldn't have broke fellowship with him. And loving people is really hard. And loving people when they disappoint you is really hard. Sometimes that's the call. And I'm not going to go as far as some people have taken this train and this idea of, the church wronged Bishop Pearson. And I think the church did, for many people, as best as they knew to do. I'm sure some people capitalized off of it, right? Some people took what he did and the fallout of it and used it to build their own brands and platforms.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think for the most part, people just did what they thought was right and what they thought they knew to do. I think I would have stayed more closely in contact with Bishop Pearson. A few years ago, I was on a red-eye flight from LA to Atlanta, headed back home, and I was getting back home for the morning because I had to preach.
Goodness. Yeah.
And or lead a youth service or something. And I remember it's my first time having a red-eye flight, so I'm asleep and, literally red eyes,
Yeah.
wandering into Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, and I go to use the bathroom before I'm going to sleep, a little bit more at the gate before my flight leaves in a few hours. And I use the bathroom and I'm wiping the crust out of my eyes, and I'm washing my hands, and someone walks behind me, and I turn to my right, and 3 sinks down from me is Bishop Pearson.
Whoa.
And
who you haven't seen or talked to.
Who I haven't seen and talked to in over a decade. Really, by this time, almost 2 decades. And I remember I was washing my hands. I was frozen as he was looking in the mirror. And I didn't say anything to him. And I don't know if it was the time or how tired I was, or the fact that I didn't know what to say, or one of the greatest regrets of my life in my ministry is not saying something to him in that moment and not letting him know how he made me feel. People often talk about this whole idea of right theology. I'm with that. I'm fierce in what we believe and why we believe it. My question has always been, if people like Bishop Pearson have such poor theology, why do they love better than us? How are they out loving our sophisticated theology?
Mm.
And what I have learned is we are so good at doctrinal statements, and we should continue to be. How we think about God and how we speak about God matters. But Bishop Pearson has been a swift and deep and thorough critique for a church that cares more about saying it loves Jesus than showing the love of Jesus to the people in the world who need it most. I've always wondered, why does he love people better than us? That has been one of his legacies.